Hello, I'm Abby Smith and I am a global top artist with Wella Professionals, and this year I am a mentor for the Colour Specialist of the Year award. So first things first, congratulations! Congratulations on being one of the 5 semi-finalists in the Netherlands. It's a fantastic achievement already and you really should be very proud of yourself. Now I'm going to give you some tips and recommendations of the things I'm going to be looking out for on the mentoring day. There is a lot to think about with your entry and a lot of homework to do. Also, I really like for you to think about 3 main areas of what you would like to learn the most with your mentoring day with me, as it's such a unique moment in your career for almost like a one-on-one training with me, so you can really gain a lot from this day. You have the opportunity to really learn something new when stepping outside of your comfort zone on this day. I look forward to spending the day with you, answering any of the questions that you may have and most importantly, inspiring you. So the first point I'm going to talk about is inspiration. And inspiration can come from anywhere. Inspiration can come from music, architecture, nature, fashion, catwalk. It's completely up to you. I would also recommend for you to check out Pantone colours. What are the colours of the season? And hopefully that will inspire you with your shade selection. So Pantone is a colour company that sets colour trends. So everything is spanned from Pantones and when they release their colours. So Pantone, for example, will create colours of the season all the year, and then from these Pantones then get sent on to fashion designers as an example. And then from there leads down onto the catwalk, which then leads down onto the high street in terms of fashion. Second point is the mood board, and mood board is so important with your Trend Vision entry. So with your mood board, I don't want to just see hair. I want to see inspiration from what I talked about earlier, from fashion, from architecture, from nature, from music. I want to see you be inspired by a lot of things, not just a certain hairdresser. I want you to think of the bigger picture and how it can inspire you. When creating your mood board, I would highly recommend to use Google, Pinterest and Instagram for your imagery. When bringing your mood board to life, I would highly recommend you use an app called Plotboard. So when you finish sourcing your imagery off the internet or off the social media channels, I'd highly recommend uploading all of your imagery onto Plotboard and placing your mood board in the correct way there. Then what you can do is then print out your mood board and it just looks so much more professional and modern. My third point of recommendation is bringing together your whole concept, meaning your hair, your makeup and your clothes, and making sure there's a really good connection between all 3 of these areas. With your Trend Vision entry, there is so much to think about. So if there's a way that you can simplify and delegate your clothes and your makeup to a makeup artist or a clothes stylist, I would highly recommend that. The reason being is that the more things you have to do, the more stressful it may be. And also by delegating these areas, it gives you time to really focus and expand your knowledge during your Trend Vision journey. If you are going to find a clothes stylist or a makeup artist, I would really highly recommend that you also create a mood board for your makeup and your clothes styling, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page of what you are trying to create with your end goal. So my 4th recommendation is makeup. And makeup should always complement the hair. The emphasis is always about the hair. This is a hairdressing competition. So I really love to see for the makeup to be a little bit more commercial and just complement the model's features. I really don't want to see makeup that's too overdone or too over the top. The emphasis should be on the hair and most importantly the hair colour. My 5th recommendation would be your wardrobe. So your wardrobe has to again complement the hair. It shouldn't override the hair. Just like the makeup, hair is the main emphasis, and that your makeup and your clothes should complement and not override the hair. So my 6th recommendation is about your model. What I would recommend is to obviously talk them through what's going to happen throughout the day, how the running of the day is going to work, that they will get judged as well. So just to make sure that they have an understanding and that they feel really comfortable throughout the day. Also, in terms of the shoes, just make sure that they feel comfortable in the shoes, in walking around in the shoes, because it can be very, very stressful for the model. My 7th recommendation is about your colour mixes. So what I would really recommend for you is to really challenge yourself and try new mixes that you've never tried before, because you're going to learn so much in this journey. I highly recommend, if you need inspiration for colour mixes, I would highly recommend going on the Wella Global Facebook page. There is so many mixes there. I'm sure you are bound to get inspiration. Once you've got your colour mixes together, I would highly recommend practicing the mixes on a mannequin head, or if you can get hold of some swatches, and I would actually test the swatches or even some wefts just to practice the mixes on before you trying them on your model. Whenever I'm entering a competition, what I will always do is on a mannequin head, I will practice the sectioning patterns, what I'm trying to create. I will always practice on a mannequin head first, so when I go to the actual model, I know exactly what I'm doing and I don't feel so overwhelmed. Now on to my 8th recommendation, the presentation. The presentation can be the most nerve-wracking part of the day, honestly. I know it from my own experience. So I'm going to share with you now one of my own experiences of how I bring a collection together and the things that I think about. And as an example, I'm going to use the collection that I just created for the release of the Colourfresh Create masks that I created with Bianca Van Swieten. So 2020 has been a very crazy year, and during quarantine it really got me thinking about what life was going to be like when we reopened again. During my 25-year career, I also lived in London, and I also lived in London in 2008, which was when the credit crunch hit London. So I've worked in some very interesting times, and it really got me thinking about how businesses were going to run when we reopened again and the budgets that we would be faced with our clients. So that was the first main inspiration of my collection, was to create a collection which was designed for partial highlighting techniques and partial toning techniques to create a much more affordable colour service and try and approach haircut clients to convert them to colour in the downturns that we may be experiencing when reopening. So my first port of call for inspiration was the catwalk, because I'm very, very inspired by fashion. And I was really seeing it, there was a real notable shift on the catwalk, and that was contrast. I was seeing bolder, brighter colours on the catwalk, and panels and flashes of pops of contrast. So my main inspiration was Dries Van Noten. Took a lot of inspiration from the collection. So my first port of call for inspiration was the catwalk, but I'm also inspired by street fashion. I love people watching. I go back to London every 6 weeks normally to get inspiration, and I could really see that there was a movement happening between last year's trend of contouring and this year's trend of money piece, which involved much more stronger face framing. So from this street influence and catwalk influence, I really wanted to incorporate a more bolder, more panelled, contrasting collection, and I call this collection the Expressionist Collection. So the Expressionist Collection is designed for your more quirkier clients, your more individual clients, and your clients that want to express their individuality. The purpose for this collection as well was for clients who may have been working from home more than ever, or they've just been made redundant, and now they have this opportunity to really express themselves while they're not working right now. So during the creative process of bringing the collection together, I was also inspired by music. I was very much inspired by K-pop and urban music influences like Dua Lipa, but also I learnt all about what an e-girl is, and an e-girl is more like Billie Eilish kind of vibes. It's kind of like a punk emo kind of vibe, so it really fit with the expressionist colour trend. So the next step in creating my collection was colour palettes. So initially I was inspired by the catwalk, by music and by street fashion. So now I start to look at what's happening with Pantones. So for me, what I do now is I go and hit Pinterest for that. And I just Google color trends 2020, color trends 2021, and just see what is happening. And I gather like all the imagery of what is happening on London Fashion Week and New York Fashion Week. So now I'm starting to gain inspiration of what is going to be within the color palettes, what colors are going to work with what colors. Okay, so the next steps in creating this collection was to then think about techniques, and I created 6 techniques for this collection. So the main emphasis of the collection is contrast. So in terms of sectioning pattern, if I want to create the strongest contrast, I would use straight sections. If I want to create quirky textures, I use zigzags. If I want to create a more seamless effect, I use a waved line or a curved line. So for this collection, it's more about straighter sections because I want to create strong contrast. So there's a lot of triangles, a lot of rectangles, and a lot of square sections. So also when I'm wanting to create contrast, I will use vertical and horizontal lines, but if I'm wanting to create seamlessness, I always work on diagonal sections. Also with the collection, I really took inspiration about quarantine time and really seeing how much more confident our clients are in attempting to colour their hair at home. So I really devised the techniques to be low cost and low commitment to help entice clients that never colour their hair to colour their hair, but also for them to have simple ways to refresh their tone with the Colourfresh Create masks at home. So the first technique I created was the statement fringe, and how this collection came into fruition was actually from my housemate who is French, and it was actually, I started looking on Pinterest and things like that to gain inspiration, and I was showing her the mood and the vibe because I was really excited about creating this collection. And it was actually her that recommended a French singer, I think her name was called Aurelia, and from that point then everything just made sense. And the first technique was created. So the statement fringe collection is very, very simple. It works better on blunter fringes, and it just is a very simple triangular section on one side of the fringe. So it just creates a quirky offset statement within the fringe area. Very simple and very effective and very on trend. That's the thing with my colouring techniques now. I always try to keep the emphasis on simple and effective colour placement. Try not to overcomplicate it too much. So that's one thing you will notice with the collection that I'm describing to you, is that all of the placements are simple and effective. So my second technique is called Pastel Pop, and that's a real good reference to the money piece trend, but it has a pastel twist to it basically. So in terms of inspiration, I saw this on the streets of London. So there was a real influence from Bleach London. You know, trends take 3 or 4 years to come into fruition. So I had seen this trend on the street in London for a little while now, and I thought it was the right time to really highlight this technique. So I'm calling it Pastel Pop, in which, you know, we take more of a rectangular section in the fringe area, so it creates that really strong statement within the fringe area. And then the choice is yours how you want to tone the statement section in the front, whether you want to use Colourfresh Create, whether you want to use Colour Touch or Colourfresh, it's completely up to you. So my third technique is called the offset statement, and the offset statement is a little bit more predominant than the Pastel Pop and the statement fringe. So the offset statement is a bit more of a larger rectangular section where it's definitely offset, so it's to one side, and then it will come from the front hairline back to the top of the ear, and then it might run round to behind the back of the ear. So it's quite a bold panel of colour for your client to make a statement with. So again, with these panels, you can block bleach them, you can do back-to-back slices, you can do weaves. It really depends on your client and how much of a statement they want to make with their hair. But the great thing is that we have the new Colourfresh Create masks that they can change or top up the tone at home whenever they want to express their individuality. So with the hidden contrast, it's all about offset irregularities. So, you know, maybe having a small panel here and a small panel behind the ear, or it could even incorporate taking a hidden nape section. So the emphasis is that the bulb panel peeps from underneath. But the great thing is as well, it's really low maintenance because the panel is through the interior of the hair, so you don't really get a regrowth with it. So again, because the placement is underneath, and it's very, very simple to tone at home with the Colourfresh Create masks. So my fifth trend of the Expressionist collection is the contrast contour. And the contrast contour is going to be huge. The reason being is that this has reference to my experience in 2008, in which we really had to adapt to our clients' new budgets. And one thing I really found is when a client is in this situation, all that really matters to them is that what they see in the front. Okay, so when you do have a client in a predicament that has now a smaller budget, what matters to them the most is how they look in the front, not in the back. So this technique is designed, it's like a W section. So if they wear the hair in the middle, they have that strong face frame or strong money piece or strong pastel pop. Then if they wear it to the side, it looks like they've actually had a full head bleach, and because it comes into a point, the way that it just kind of blends into the natural in the back, and because everything is on a diagonal, it all falls very, very seamlessly. So within the front panel and the part line panels, you can do a block bleach, you can foil it, you can do back-to-back slices if you want to. It really just depends how you want it to grow out and how much contrast that they want to create in the areas that they see. So again, it gives your client a really good scope to be able to express their individuality on their part line, on their front hairline, and especially with the Colourfresh Create mask, because you know, they could have it blonde during the week, they can have it pink on the weekend, they can have it blonde during the week again, and then they might wear it blue for the weekend. So my sixth look in my Expressionist collection is called the Statement Root, and the Statement Root has taken inspiration from the e-girl trend, and that is Miss Billie Eilish. So I was kind of thinking about, obviously we're going to be faced with very large regrowths. So therefore the Statement Root involves, it's the more higher maintenance, it's the highest maintenance of the collection. So what it involves doing is block bleaching the roots and leaving the existing colour on the lengths and ends. So there's a very iconic image of Billie Eilish where she's got lime green roots and black ends. So this could be a really cool opportunity to embrace that trend. I'm even kind of doing that trend at the moment where I have my roots blonder and I actually have my ends a little bit pinker. So it doesn't have to be an extreme contrast, it can be very, very subtle. So the tips I would give you before your mentoring day would be understanding the Wella portfolio, because everything has a reason within the colour portfolio. If you're wanting to create dense looking roots, you know, that would be the Colistin or Colour Touch. If you're wanting to create more of a smudged root effect, maybe that could be Illumina. If you're wanting to just create shine with tone only, that could be Relights, that could be Perfecton. So I would really recommend for you to go to the Wella Education website, and I would highly recommend going over each range and what each range does, and most importantly what it creates in terms of dimension. If you're looking for balayage inspired inspiration, I would highly recommend to check out Romeo Philippe's Instagram page. So I hope by me sharing my experience of creating my post-quarantine trends will inspire you with your entry for Trend Vision. So I'm just going to recap now on some of the points that I talked about, just for you to really think about these points with your entry. Make sure on your mood board that there isn't just hair images. I'd really love to see influence from architecture, art, fashion, music and design. So again, when it comes to your mood board, I'd really love for you to create your mood board electronically by sourcing your imagery off of the internet and social media, and then finding an app that works for you. I recommend Plotboard, but I really look forward to seeing your mood board creations. Most importantly, make sure that you have a balance between your hair, your makeup and your clothes. Make sure that your clothes and your makeup do not override the hair, because the emphasis should be on the hair. Also, have a think about your first image that you created, and have a think about how that you can progress after the mentoring day and create an upgraded image from your first image. For example, your lighting. Did you initially take your picture in daylight, or are you going to use lighting this time to enhance your hair color? Have a think about the stronger points which you really are happy with, and also think about the things that you may want to change to strengthen your next look. So whatever points that you're not quite sure about, maybe bring those points to the mentoring day and we can go over them one-to-one, and we'll figure out a way of how you can strengthen your entry for the next round. Throughout your process, it's always really good to get a fresh set of eyes and hear their interpretation of what you're trying to create. So when I'm creating a collection, I show my friends, I show my family, I show my colleagues, because one, I'm excited and focused, but it's always really nice to hear different people's perspective on their interpretation of what you're trying to create. So it's always really good to ask other people what they think of what you're trying to create, and if they have any little tips for you as well, is really helpful too. I look very forward to meeting you, and very much looking forward to the mentoring day. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, and I will see you soon.